Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. My name is Amy with 2 E's, and I'm the CEO and founder of Irresistible University. Through my podcast, I teach women just like you how to ditch the body image issues, gain confidence, and lose the emotional weight to look and feel irresistible at any size. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 202. Before we get started today, I wanted to give you a reminder about how to subscribe to the podcast. My podcast player of choice is Amazon Music. I have the Amazon Music app right on my phone. I have access to millions of songs. That's what I love about it too, right? There's podcasts and there's also music. And literally any song, any album, anything that I want to listen to on demand, I just type it in and I have access to it all without ads. And so I have access because I am an Amazon Prime member. So I wanted to remind you that Amazon Music is a really great app to listen to this podcast. Subscribe through the app so you get notifications when I post new episodes. And if you are a Prime member, then you have access to Amazon Music free of ads. So if you're not a member, I will put a link in the show notes that has an access to a 30-day free trial of Amazon Prime. In addition to Amazon Music, there are tons of other benefits, including 2-day free shipping, unlimited streaming and videos, and photo storage, and just all kinds of good stuff. So that link will be down in the show notes. Okay, so for today, what we are talking about is the dreaded plateau that happens in your weight loss journey. And what you have to do in order to break through that plateau. Now, I am not going to be talking about, nutrition and what to eat and how to eat. I don't talk about those things. I approach things from a mindset and emotional standpoint. So that's what we're going to get into today, is how you need to up level in order to take it to the next level, right? There's a classic saying that what got you here won't get you there. And that's really the premise of this, right? Like, let's back up just a second and let's talk about plateaus and acknowledging them and why they're frustrating. So, you've gone on a weight loss journey, you're steadily losing weight, you've implemented all these new habits and different foods and things that you're doing differently that you weren't doing pre-weight loss journey. And then all of a sudden, you start to hit a wall. We call that the plateau, where even though you're still doing all the things that you were doing to lose the initial amount of weight, the weight is no longer coming off. The weight is staying the same. And this is very common. It's part of the process. It's part of the journey, especially when you have a large amount of weight, 50 plus, 100 plus pounds to lose. This is a very normal part of the process. So first things first, I want you to acknowledge that this is not a problem, right? It is not a problem. It is a sign that you have made some really significant changes, and this is a good thing. So acknowledge the frustration and how common it is to catch yourself in a plateau, right? You cannot be in a weight loss journey and not have this happen. It's going to happen. And so for me personally, in my journey to lose 100 pounds, I am just about at the 50-pound mark in my journey. So I'm about halfway there. And I have definitely been experiencing this lately where, the scale isn't moving, and it can be very frustrating because you feel like, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You are, making these small changes and making these sacrifices and making these swaps and things like that. But when you first start losing weight, especially when you have more than 100 pounds to lose, I don't want to say the weight comes off easy, because that kind of belittles the process of weight loss. But the weight comes off a lot faster, right? Or so it seems. The weight comes off a lot faster. You seem to have success, every single week that you get on the scale, it seems like the weight is coming down. There's this pattern, there's this momentum, because you have to think about what you've done, right? You have completely shocked the system. You've gone from eating fast food twice a day. You've gone from binging. You've gone from overeating, all the donuts and all the treats at work and all the things, to shocking your system into less intake, right? You have started eating clean. You have cut back your portions. You have, made substitutions where you need to make substitutions. And, when you do that, it's a shock to the system. So, of course, your body is going to release the weight because you've taken, God knows how many calories you're consuming, right? You've gone from like probably thousands and thousands of calories a day so that your body is able to release this weight a lot faster in the beginning, right? It's just like and I always tell people I hate the show, but the show Biggest Loser, like these people would lose a ton of weight. And the reason they were losing a ton of weight, there's reasons behind that. But my point being, these people weighed a lot. And the more that you weigh, the more weight that you're going to knock off in the very beginning anyway. So you get to this point where, you have made these life changes because again, we want to lose weight for the very last time, right? And so these things that we're doing, they're lifestyle changes. And there's things for me that I know I've implemented that don't even feel like I've implemented anymore because I've just been doing it for so long. So you start to think, well, what's wrong with me, right? So I shared if you guys haven't checked it out, I've been doing the mini series 10 pounds, 10 times. And I posted last week for the first time this year and shared kind of where things are at and my numbers and stuff like that. And I was also sharing, because my husband's also been on a weight loss journey, and he's down almost 50 pounds. He doesn't have 100 pounds to lose. Like, he's pretty close to his goal at this point. But it seemed like the weight just like fell off for him. And it's a little frustrating for me seeing like my 10 pounds to his 50 pounds. Like, I know men definitely lose weight a lot easier and a lot faster, but nonetheless, it still can be discouraging in a way. But I also have to remember this 50 pounds that he has lost, I have already lost 50 pounds. So, and I have started to see with him, it is slowing down a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And so that's what happens is we go on these journeys, we make all these changes, we're doing things for the first time that we've probably never done before, and then we hit a wall. We hit that plateau where things just tend to settle out, and they don't change, right? So you have to understand that what got you here to this point today will not get you there. What got you here won't get you there. So what got me from 270 to the 220s is not going to get me to the 170s, okay? I have to evolve. I have to up-level the things that I'm doing. And when I talk about up-leveling and weight loss, I don't just mean the food, right? You have to up-level your mindset. You have to up-level your emotions. You have to up-level your habits, right? So, I've been able to lose almost 50 pounds. That weight has come off. But as your body gets smaller, you have to tighten up. Like, you have to tighten up the portions and the amount of food and the activity and things like that, because it does make a difference. And I think, especially the premise of my show here with Irresistible You is that, the food and the activity to me is like the last of the importance. It's more around the mindset, because what a lot of people do, and I've been guilty of this before, is you hit a plateau and then you're like, well, F it. Like, I'm not losing weight. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. This was working before. It's no longer working. I'm going to just throw in the towel. And that's the last thing that you should be doing. You need to reflect on those achievements and your milestones and what got you to this current point, and understand that to take it to the next level, you've got to go up. You've got to up level how you're thinking about things, how you're planning things, how you're moving, all of it, because you're going to need to rein that in. And so that's kind of where I've been at too, personally. And, I shared in last week's 10 pounds, 10 times how I really haven't been tracking my food, and I'm not very excited to track my food and to have to I don't want to have to do it. But here's the thing, and I'll get more into this in the 10 pounds, 10 times that comes out later this week. But when I look at this week's weigh-in, I can only make assumptions based on my own stories that I'm creating, right? Because if I don't track my food, then I can't go back and look at the numbers and the data and say, oh, well, that's why you didn't lose, because you ate this and this and this 3 times last week or whatever, right? So tracking your food gives you some type of a base to determine why you're either losing, not losing, or staying the same, right? And because I don't have that data, I can't do that. And the reel that we keep inside of our head about what we're eating, girl, it's very different from the truth. Because we're like, no, I did everything right. I didn't overeat. I didn't do this. Your portions were probably out of control. You snuck a few lint balls here and there. You did this, you did that. And all of those actions, they add up, right? They add up, and we can get really good at creating a false narrative in our head that we're doing everything right. And that's not always the case. So I know for me, one of my up levels, if you will, is I have to start tracking my food again so that I can see. And it's not to be like obsessive, right? That's the difference in thinking that you have to break away from. The reason for doing this, again, is to have the data and the numbers to be able to make decisions. Because now I can't make a decision and say, okay, well, this week you need to cut out this, or this week you need to stop doing this or start doing that. When you start tracking, then you can see patterns. You can start to come up with strategies that will take you to that next level, okay? So as your body changes in this weight loss journey, so does your mind. And you have to be intentional about evolving your brain and your thinking and your emotional state and how you deal with things. You have to up-level all of that, because if you don't, you will go right back to where you started from. And none of us want to do that. So mindset is such a big piece of this. Being able to manage your emotions is such an underrated skill that I wish was taught in schools. I wish it was taught. People don't come equipped knowing how to regulate their emotions. And that is such a big part of this journey, because if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you are an emotional eater, right? So learning how to get your emotions in check, learning how to process those. And that's been something for me. I've been through this journey before, but doing this weight loss journey again, and being on the tirzepatide injections, which I shared in my 10 pounds, 10 times, I don't have the urge to eat, right? Like I get hungry, but I don't I'll be sitting there and I know I'm not hungry. In fact, there's no way I could even get food in, because I just feel like you feel full a lot with these injections. And then I feel like I'm going to come out of my skin because I'm bored. And that's a sign of okay, if you're bored, find something else to do, right? You got to find something else to do. So learning how to listen to yourself and redirect thoughts, and knowing that you have to have another outlet, right? Food cannot be your only outlet in life. So it's time to set new goals for yourself, right? You have to reassess what your weight loss goals are and what they were. And are those still in alignment? You know, they might have changed. Like, even, thinking about where you're at today, let's say you did lose 50 pounds. Are you happy where you're at now? Is this a weight that you want to stay at? Like, maybe your goals have changed. Maybe you want to lose more. So take a look at your goals, reassess them, figure out if those are still in line with, where you want to go with this, and figure out what has to happen in order to make those goals. Like, I know for me, like, one of my, I do things in 10-pound increments. We call them decades, 10 pounds, 10 times. That's where it comes from. But hitting Wonderland is like I have not seen the one in so long, and I am craving to see the one. Like, I will probably cry. I will probably scream. I will probably just, to reach that milestone is going to mean a lot to me. And it means a lot to me, so much more than what just the number is. And so, I know that I have to up level and make some changes to what I'm consuming to get to that goal. I kind of know, like, what I can eat, how much I can consume, and know that I'm going to stay the same. But if you want to keep the scale moving down, I know that I can't do that anymore. Like, there's things that I'm going to have to cut or reduce the amount of in order to keep the momentum going and for that weight to fall down, because your body gets smaller. It needs less to survive on. And so it needs even less if you're trying to create a deficit for you to lose weight. So, that's just what it is. And so I don't want you to feel discouraged when you have a plateau. I don't want you to feel like you're not doing things correctly, because a plateau gives us information, right? It tells us that our body has gotten adjusted to these changes. Our body adapted to what we put it through in order to get where we are today. But the key takeaway is that what got you here won't get you there. And I think this is very true in all areas of success, right? There's certain things that can get us to the halfway point or the quarter point or whatever, but we have to really rein it in. I mean, look at people, like, the last 5 to 10 pounds of your weight is always like, takes the longest, the hardest. It's just, it can be maddening, right? So thinking about what you need to do in order to make that change. And don't approach this like, oh my God, I have to make these big sweeping changes. I've got to do not fall into the desperate diet mentality. What you ask yourself, like, you've reevaluated your goals. You know what you want to achieve. And then you ask yourself, how do I up level today? Right? Because if you're a yo-yo dieter, which I know you are because you listen to this podcast, you are so used to making these big sweeping changes. Like, I got to go hard. I got to go 0 to 100. I got to throw out all the food. I got to stop doing this and stop eating that. Years and years of this like toxic 90s millennial culture dieting has embedded that into your brain. And you have to stop desperate dieting. And instead, what you have to say is, okay, what is the one thing I can do today to up level to where I want to go to become the version of myself that I crave to be? What is one thing? We're not talking about all 3 meals, all your snacks. We're talking about what is one thing. And that one thing could be drinking water. It could be going for a walk for 10 minutes. It could be deciding not to order out tonight for your food, right? For your dinner. So the next day, keep that thing that you did today, right? And tomorrow, what is one thing I can do to up level today? One thing. And I know for those of you that have the 90s millennial toxic diet culture like embedded into the fiber of our being, that feels like it's not going to be enough. That feels like it's not going to move the needle. It's not going to do anything. And I am here to tell you that that is false. That is exactly how you get to your goal. That is exactly how you lose the weight and get to where you want to be, is by making teeny tiny small changes day after day after day after day. Weight loss is nothing but a series of decisions. It's a series of decisions that you get to decide whether you're going to make them or not. You get to decide what you're going to do with those decisions. And those little teeny tiny decisions will add up to the big losses. I always say that it's like a snowball, right? Like it's the snowball effect. If you keep going and you keep rolling the snow, you're going to get to this massive snowball. So change the way that you're thinking about small up levels, because you're immediately going to want, there goes my earring. You're immediately going to want to run away and be like, this isn't going to work. It's only going to work if I go hard, if I make these changes, if I cut out all my foods and I go on a hardcore diet. No, that's desperate dieting. And we're not doing that anymore. So what is the one thing you can do today? You're listening to this today. Ask yourself, what can I do today to make a change? One thing. And part of this is working through the all or nothing perfectionism thinking, right? The all or nothing. Let me ask you this. So far, how has that all or nothing thinking been working for you? Probably not too well. So what if you decide there's another way to do things, right? Because if you want this to be the last time, then you have to make changes and up levels that you're willing to do for the rest of your life. You know, if you're watching on YouTube, here goes everybody that knows me, everyone that knows me knows Diet Pepsi is my jam. Like I always have a Diet Pepsi. I have been drinking Diet Pepsi for many years. That was not always the case. It was always real Pepsi, real Coke. And I cannot stand the flavor, the taste, the sugar in a real soda. Cannot stand it. So, you know, that many years ago was my up level to where now it's not. And when I first started doing it, it was hard. It felt like a sacrifice. It felt like I was pissed off because I didn't want to do it. And now it's like, well, no, like I don't like the other soda. I don't like real soda, real Coke, real Pepsi. So that to me is one of those examples of an up level that is now just part of my life. I don't even think about it, right? Drinking water, like not only do I have my Pepsi, and then I got my water over here. Drinking water. I went my whole life until I was like early 20s, and I didn't drink water. Like, and to me that just sounds so stupid and so asinine, but it's the truth. I didn't drink water. And now if I don't have my water every day, and I mean, this thing comes with me, you know, it's everywhere I go, because if I don't stay hydrated, I feel gross. I feel bloated. I feel swollen. I feel just like my face, everything. We got to have the water. And so that was another up level, you know? And so if I were to sit here and say, oh, I mean, I drink water, I drink diet soda, I eat fruit now, I do this, how come the weight's not coming off? It's because these things just became an established part of your life. You got adjusted to them, you evolved and adapted. So now there's different areas, there's different ways that you've got to up level to get this weight to come off. Right. And again, like I used to eat fast food when I first gained my huge 100-pound weight gain when I was a teenager out of high school. I was eating fast food, girl, like at least 2 to 3 times a day. I mean, and it was not a Happy Meal. It was not grilled chicken. It was not chili. It was, you know, double this, double that with all the cheese and the sauce. And I don't eat like that anymore. Like the other night, it was crazy. We kind of had like a crazy like thing that happened. It wasn't anything bad, but just, something took a really long time, and I had the kids with me, and it was late, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. I was not going to come home and cook dinner, and they wanted Happy Meals because they got the Squishmallows, whatever you call them, at McDonald's. So they wanted to get that. And I was hungry. I know I needed to eat, and I got a chicken nugget meal at McDonald's. And that was the first time I've eaten at McDonald's in a very long time. And I actually threw away half the nuggets, half the fries. It all went in the trash because I just didn't want it anymore. But it got me thinking about that, how, every last morsel of food at one point would have been devoured, right? And then I would have done it again hours later. And so, that's been huge. Like this past weight loss journey, right? In the last couple years, I got into a habit of ordering out food at home. DoorDash is great, but it can also be really dangerous. It's dangerous to your waist and it's dangerous to your pocket. So, I think we went this whole weekend that just passed, no DoorDash, which that might sound like no big deal to you guys, but when I tell you, like, we would DoorDash at least twice a weekend, and no one DoorDashed this whole weekend. It was great. And I cooked at home, and I've been cooking at home a lot more lately. And that's an up level, right? That's an up level for me. But I also know, because I was like, okay, if I just stop ordering out, and for a while it would help with the weight loss, and it did. But now the up level for me is, okay, yes, you're cooking at home more. We can't just cook at home. We need to figure out some recipes. We need to figure out portion sizes, things like that I know I need to really hone in on in order to take me down to the next decade, right? Our next decade for goal is the 210s. And so we're very close, and I don't want to lose that momentum. I don't want to slide backwards. But sometimes it happens. It does. And I will share with you my results. Later this week, I will have 10 pounds, 10 times uploaded, and you'll be able to take a listen to that. And if you subscribe in your podcast player, you will get notifications when those episodes go live. If you're on YouTube, same thing. Hit the bell. You will get notified when videos go up. So what's your up level going to be? What does it look like? What is it that you need to do to make some changes? That's what I want you to think about this week. Understand that it's okay. It's human. It's natural to hit plateaus. Don't get frustrated about that. Pick yourself up, stop the pity party, and ask yourself, how do I get off this plateau? Okay. All right, guys. We are going to start to wrap things up here. If you want to stay connected with me in between episodes, the best place to do that is on Instagram at Irresistible Icing. I post over there daily. You'll get notified when there's new episodes. You get to get a glimpse into my crazy life behind the scenes and all of that good stuff. So, all right, I am going to end the podcast here. I want to thank you so much for listening. I am going to catch you in the next episode. And until then, stay irresistible. Bye, guys.